Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the last part of making a journal cover and a journal from a thrifted quilt. So in this part I'm just going to share with you guys the final flip through. I did go ahead and I sewed in the signature just with a 3-hole pamphlet stitch here. I just used some linen thread. I don't have wax linen thread or anything like that, it's just basic linen thread, but it's doubled over for strength as well. So I just went ahead and I sewed that in, and I also did decorate a little bit more off camera, sort of mostly today actually. I think I decorated some more, and I had to sort of stop myself once again because I did want to leave some pages plain. I didn't want to decorate every single page, even though I was having tremendous fun. I sort of had to stop myself, and you know, it was enough because it was getting quite bulky just for one signature, and you know, when it gets quite bulky like that, it becomes quite difficult just to sew one in. You sort of have to split them into two, but I wanted to keep it the one signature, so I sort of stopped myself. But it was a lot of fun decorating it. And so I didn't count the pages that went into this journal before when I was creating the booklet itself. I typically don't do that. I just sort of add in pages randomly to where I think it's going to be sort of enough. But I did go ahead and count it just before, and there are 49 pages, not 50, 49 pages. Kind of wish I did add in one more now, but you know, that's just the way I operate. I just do things sort of randomly like that. So yeah, 49 pages, and so that's 98 sides of front and back, and that doesn't include flip outs and things like that. So here we've just got this tie which has been made from a sheet. I just ripped it and sort of folded the edges over. There's some frayed bits and stuff like that, and I sort of sewed it, and it just makes this nice tie here. So it wraps around the back there like that. And I've got these flowers, once again I think I've talked about them, from a cheap store here. So we'll just go ahead with the flip through. I think I'll just move my cup of tea. I just made myself a nice cup of tea because it is a nice quiet night at home tonight. My family is all out, so it's a perfect time to film. Just pop that aside there. They're actually out. We hold a social club for teenagers once every 2 weeks, and it's just sort of to get teens more active in the community. So it's sort of a community thing that we run, and we work with businesses and things like that to bring activities to teenagers. And yeah, so they are out at that tonight, and I decided to stay at home. So anyway, we'll get started with this flip through. I won't ramble on. So on the first page here we've got a piece of scrapbooking paper. Now this is from Kaisercraft. I think it's called Rosabella, and I did tea stain it, and I folded down the edges here. I did get a lot of comments on that in the last part, and I think it's really interesting. I'm definitely going to be doing it more. I love the way it adds different shapes to your pages, and that way it folds over sort of a plain piece over a pattern piece, and it's just really interesting and fun technique. So I hope you guys will try it too. Here's just a piece of lined paper. I think it's an older sort of piece of paper, sort of a vintagey sort of lined piece of paper that's already patinaed sort of, so you don't have to go ahead and tea stain it. It's just decorated with some washi tape. And here once again there's some folded pieces up here and a little bit of fabric. This one here, I just love the way it's sort of folded around, and it creates this unusual shaped piece of paper, and you can see the piece here peeking through. This piece here is just, I think it's from a school book. I think it's like an exercise book, so some red lines. And here I just used these bits of scraps that were left over from the quilt when I cut the cover out. I wanted to reuse them. I wanted to tie in that colour scheme back into the book, so it's just some ruffled pieces of fabric off the edge here. Here's some handmade paper, some dictionary page, and some antique lace. And all the stitching, the thread colour I've used in this is a light pink, so it's a really nice pop of colour. against the sort of neutral papers that I've used here. So this is just scrap fabric once again that came from the edge of that piece that I used. I don't want it to go to waste. It's beautiful and it accents it nicely. This is vintage graph paper. This is from a book that I grabbed from an op shop. So I just folded it up and made a pocket here. So got some book page at the back there. I've got this antique or vintage sort of a building and banking check, I believe. It's really interesting. But I got a book of them when I was up in Brisbane at an antique shop, and they're really quite inexpensive actually. I think, yeah, here it is. I just don't have the cover with it because I reused this cover in this book, but that's what it looks like. And yeah, for a few dollars. I thought it was a beautiful colour of blue as well. So that's there. And then on the front here I've created a sort of a double pocket, and I've reused this piece that came out of, not too sure where it came out of, but it says Encyclopedia Britannica, and you know, these are the things that you would post away if you wanted a subscription. So I popped that on the front there, and there's a couple of scrap pieces of vintage wallpaper that you can reuse in your journal, on the journal here. This here is a piece of paper that came from the front of a book. You guys know how I love to use the front of sort of vintagey books. See if there's a book here. Doesn't really have it in it, but maybe the back of that you can pull out and reuse, and look how patinaed that is. And this actually came from a free recycle centre. So look how brown those pages are. It's great fun to use. So that's that one there. This is a piece of scrapbooking paper, and on it I've just got another sort of vintage check here, Commonwealth Trading Bank of Australia. I got it from the same antique store. So it's just tea stained paper here, and I've just used some sort of curtain netting to create a ruffle. I do love to use this stuff. You guys have seen me using it before. It's on the front of the cover here as well, and I just sort of wanted to tie that back into the journal, so I thought it would look really nice hanging out the sides there. It's really sort of fluffy looking, and yeah, so it's got these sort of threads. I have cut some off, but I've left some as well because I think that's quite nice. Here once again I've done that folded in sort of technique here around the pages. I've added in some paper clips, and there's a vintage sort of merchandise ticket or something. I think I got this from a package on Instagram, and it came in that. Some more tea stain paper. This page here I've just decorated up. So on the back here I've got a little piece of graph paper. This came from a notebook that I grabbed from an antique store in Leiden in the Netherlands. So it's all written in Dutch, and it's a lot of fun. So there's some sort of numbers and writing. There's a little clear pocket here with just a little piece of scrap in there. This here is that gorgeous craft tape that I just discovered. I think somebody in the comments said it was called painter's tape in America, or packaging tape, I believe, which is kind of unusual because here our packaging tape is brown, but it's made of a plastic. So this here is really unusual for me. I've never seen it like this before, and it was just called craft tape on the outside. So there's also some washi, and this here is the threads of the netting that I just bunched up and stapled on with some copper staples. And I found these in my second's op shop at the front of the counter, and I just grabbed them, and luckily they fit into my old very cheap stapler that I grabbed from a store here. So they've been great fun to use throughout this journal. This piece of paper here came out of a sewing book, and it just sort of fell out. It was just folded up in there, so it just says how to crochet. Over here is a bit of folded down piece here. This is a coffee stained envelope, and it has a vintage flash card in it. Here I have it's my German book. I think I told you guys the story about this, but I was in Amsterdam a few years ago now, and yeah, I was told about this book sale they had going on, and then when the book sale had ended, they throw all the books out that they haven't sold. So yeah, we did a little bit of dumpster diving for books that day, and not your typical tourist thing to do, but when you've got a beautiful book like this from 1907 with this beautiful German Gothic print type, I will jump into a dumpster to grab it. So that was a great lot of fun. I did that with a pen pal that I had in the Netherlands. So that one will always stick with me as a fantastic memory, because you know, it's really not your typical thing that you do when you're away on holiday. But yeah, so over here we've got the same sort of deal. I've got that front piece of a book here. It's got some unusual markings on it, sort of a square piece here I think. And I've just attached it to the smaller piece here, and I love the way it comes out like that, and you can see the craft piece of paper behind it. I've just added these vintage stamps here. They're from the 1920s I believe, and once again those awesome copper staples. This is a piece of craft paper, and here this came from the inside of a book. It's just an inscription. It says to Valerie, I'm not sure, from someone church and Sunday school, something Johnson, S. Johnson, superintendent, 18th of November 1951. I can't read these sort of, it's so beautiful, but I have trouble reading the font there sometimes, but it's so great when you've got this in the front of books, and I always love to reuse that. It's just like your own vintage ephemera. Over here once again we've got that Britannica encyclopedia. I do love to keep these. I think they're a lot of fun. And I think on the back, you know, if you wanted to, you could cover that. It's not so interesting there. It says gift coupon. It's kind of interesting, but you could probably cover it up and write on that there. So on the back here there's that beautiful paper from Kaisercraft again. And this page here was quite plain, and I didn't really want to decorate it too much, but I wanted something, so I just folded over that piece of scrapbooking paper just to give a pop of colour against the plain piece at the back here. So over here we've got, this was just a scrap of paper that fell out of one of my bird books, and it says, "We saw so many at the side of the lake with boat, Mother's Day, blue wren." So that was just a little note that was, yeah, it was in one of the bird books that I got, I think, from Lifeline Book Fest maybe, or who knows, with me. And then I had this little piece of scrap of German book page here, so I just stapled that on for some interest there. And here is some handmade paper with a bit of vintage wallpaper stapled to the top. And we've just got a little bit of the fabric here as well. It's just a plain piece here, and just a little bit of decoration. You guys would have seen me doing this one on camera, so just the top of a tag here, some of that beautiful new wallpaper I've got, some lace, some washi tape, and some staples. So it really doesn't take much just to jazz up the page a little bit more. In hindsight, now that I'm looking at it now, I wish I'd pushed that up so the tag came a little bit out the top, but you know, it's still nice the way it is. Here we have, I think this is a Sears catalogue that I got in some Happy Mail, because I don't see Sears catalogues anywhere here in Australia, and I do believe it's American, so I thought that would be fun to use, and it's very fitting with the sort of vintagey vibe I've got going inside the journal. Over here once again, this is this graph paper from the book I got from Leyden, and this is a airline, railway, seaboard, some sort of a luggage tag. I won this once again on Instagram. And here's just a plain piece of paper, and I've done the same sort of technique where I've folded the edges all around to create this unusual shape, and there's pink thread all around here. So this is the middle of the signature, you guys, and I'm just going to grab a mouthful of my tea, excuse me 1 minute. So in the middle there is this paper bag, and I just got these from the supermarket. I thought it was an interesting colour. Normally the ones I've seen are sort of a brown craft sort of paper bag, and these were yellow, so I did pick them up and I thought they're great fun to use. So there's nothing in them, but it's there for, you know, bits and pieces to go in. There's a little bit of a wallpaper tab there. In the centre there is some book pages, and this one is from the March of Poetry, and at the back here there is that German book page as well. This side I sort of cut this open so you've got a pocket as well. And here is just a plain piece of paper with some of that netting. Just have to be careful with this page because I did decorate this one up today, and it's kind of the last page I think that I decorated because I just had to stop myself, but this was really fun to do this page. So at the back here we've got a piece of Russian book page, some scrapbooking paper, some of that awesome netting, and here is just a coffee stained envelope, so it's just like this here, and I just cut it off. So it made a small pocket, and I've just sewn it back up around the side here. And then this page flips up so you can reuse all this page under here. So over here I've just decorated up a little bit down here with a tag, some ledger paper, and these are some vintage visiting cards that I got from my seconds op shop. They're great fun to use. They're a bit patinaed around the edge as well. They've got a nice brown around the edge here, so they're great fun to use. I use that as sort of the base here. A little scrap of vintage ledger paper from 1977, top of a tag, and then here we've got this beautiful illustration which is from the March of Poetry book as well. And here is a postcard which I picked up from England. I'm trying to think, I think I got it from Brighton, yep, when I was down on a day trip at Brighton. I went into a shop there and they had so many great things, but I picked up some postcards. So this says the West Cliff Lift, Bournemouth, so it's an original. Just pop that one in there. There's a little paperclip decoration there as well. Here's the other side of that Sears catalogue. Another piece of tea stained paper that I've just folded around once again. This here is an envelope, and it came out of the middle of a book as well. Had some letters in it, which is quite fun, and it was ripped all in here, but I wanted to reuse the envelope, so I cut it in half, and then I've just stitched around here. There's a little bit of decoration, and I've left that's all been ripped, so I've just left it. And I've popped this postcard in, which is a book that I grabbed from Noosa. You would have seen it in my haul video. It says Moscow, and it's just sort of a very vintage postcard book. I believe it's from the 50s because it sort of looks 50-ish to me with the colours and that. A little bit of decoration up the top here. Over here we've got the outer edge of this check book that I've used, so you can see the back of it there. And I've just folded it in half. I've popped that luggage tag and a visiting card there. It's just held on with a paper clip. And it lifts up, and there's just a little envelope here so you can slip something in if you wanted to. This is just the back of some of that scrapbooking paper. It's just absolutely stunning. I think, look how well it goes with that netting there. It's just beautiful. And sorry, I was just checking I didn't miss a page. Here we've got the front, another front of the book, sort of the inner pages, and somebody's written on it and stamped June Evans. It's a little postage stamp, and it just flips down, and there's some tag, there's a tag there, some lace and some washi tape. So plain page there. Once again, just this awesome graph paper here with some writing on it. It's all in Dutch, so I can't understand any of it. Tea stained paper. There's a bit of decoration once again here, and at the back here there is an eco dyed scrap of paper, and I've just embossed on it so you can see the embossing leaves there. This is the back of that crochet piece of paper that fell out of a sewing book. A little bit of scrap of the fabric there. Same deal with that, folding it in. I didn't do that with all the pages, but I really was hard not to because I wanted to. There's just some of that ruffle again, and some tea stained scrapbooking paper. It's all the same stuff as at the front. Here's a pocket as well, so I've just popped in some Russian book page and some shorthand book page. There's a visiting card and some wallpaper, sort of scraps there to decorate. So this page here, I wanted to decorate it up a little bit more. It was originally just this graph paper here. So I went ahead and I put on this book page here, which is, it's got a table on it, some numbers and things like that. A bit of the netting here, some ledger, some craft paper, the sort of the end of that tag, so the top was used somewhere else and that's the bottom. And I'm not sure where this came from, but I found it in a scrap piece, so I just pulled it aside and I've just turned it into a pocket. So I've popped another postcard in here, so that just sits like that there, and it's made the page quite sturdy actually, so that's that one. Just a little bit of decoration here with some eco print. It's just been 3 things stapled together basically. Page out of that exercise book, and here we have an envelope. If you guys remember when I did a haul video, I did show some postcards that were these beautiful thatched cottages. Well, the envelope for these I sort of thought I'll reuse, and it's kind of a double pocket, so you can go behind and then in here like that. Just a tiny little bit of decoration here and there, but mostly plain pages, and a little bit of washi tape, and that's the end, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this flip through, and I really hope you enjoyed this little series of making a journal from a thrifted quilt. I do have plenty of fabric left, so I can make a lot more of these journals. Now I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this journal. I may sell it, I may keep it, or I may gift it. I'm not sure yet, but my Etsy shop is temporarily closed. I think I did mention that in one of my videos. I may reopen it to sell a few things here and there until I get something more permanent. I'm working on a website at the moment, so until that's done I may reopen it shortly. So if anyone's interested in purchasing this, just comment below and I may pop this over on my Etsy store. But I hope you guys are all having a lovely night. I hope you're having a lovely weekend, and I'm going to head off now and I'm going to go tuck up and watch a movie. So I hope you guys got some good inspiration anyway. But the next time I chat to you, I think that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be making some ephemera, some pockets and some bits of decoration and things like that, because you guys can't see now but my desk is completely covered in stuff, and I kind of would just rather sort of make some things while it's messy, if you know what I mean. So rather than packing it up and then pulling it back out, it's just an excuse for me not to tidy up basically. So you guys might see another video from me in the next few days where I'm just sort of making bits and pieces here and there. But until then, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you once again for subscribing to my channel, and thank you for all your lovely comments. I love chatting to you guys and interacting with you all. So I'll chat to you in the next video. Bye, guys.